I'm going to speak a little bit about anxiety in dogs. Um, Dogs that go blind can experience some fear or anxiety after they lose their vision. They can develop fear over loud noises, they can have high startle reflexes, or they can have anxiety when they're separated from their owner. Now, not every dog is going to experience anxiety, but it's important for us as owners to be able to recognize the symptoms so that we can address them quickly. Now, anxiety can be complex in nature, and I don't have the time allotted to talk as much about anxiety as I would like to, but I think that what we should get from this is to be able to recognize when our dogs are having anxiety, and then we can talk to our veterinarians. So, anxiety is the body's natural response to a perceived danger. So, real or imagined, the body prepares to deal with that danger by initiating the autonomic fight or flight response. And within the brain, the hypothalamus is rushing in cortisol and adrenaline, and your dog may be experiencing an increase in heart rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. So their emotional response is being reinforced on a physiologic level due to that surge in adrenaline. Now, an anxiety attack may manifest itself in many ways: crying, whining, following the owner from room to room, obsessive licking, panting, pacing, inappropriate eliminations, destructive behaviors, and in some extreme cases, self mutilation. So, if our dogs are experiencing any of those symptoms, it's important for us to talk with our veterinarian right away. We want to make sure that there's no medical condition that's causing these symptoms, and once it's been determined that it's anxiety, we need to figure out how we can help our dogs with that anxiety. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do as owners to maybe help our dogs with a little bit of anxiety. If our dogs are experiencing some separation anxiety, I think that we should check and see around the house, where does that anxiety begin? Does that anxiety begin with some of these exit cues? Now, blind dogs can pick up on exit cues just as well, maybe even better on exit cues, meaning they know that something has cued them into the fact that you are leaving. You pick up your keys, you pick up your wallet, you put on your shoes. Does the anxiety start there? And if that's where it starts, then maybe we could start to desensitize our dogs to these cues by maybe picking them up and doing these things throughout the day without leaving. The other thing we can do if our dogs are experiencing separation anxiety is not to make a big deal out about leaving or coming home. So we don't want to overgreet our dogs when we come home, and we don't want our dogs to overgreet us as well. So keep those in mind. And the other thing is, again, keep your own emotions a little bit in check. Our dogs really are emotional barometers, and if that feeling of tension or feelings of helplessness, that translates to the dog as feelings of helplessness. So we want to keep our own emotions in check, so we'll try to be aware of those. There are some anxiety relieving products on the market, so I'm just going to go through a few of those. Um, the DAP, the dog appeasing pheromone, is a synthetic dog that mimics synthetic dog pheromones that mimics the chemical that's produced by lactating females. And this chemical is picked up by newborns and forms a sense of well-being. So it produces a relaxing response and alleviates that fear and anxiety. And these collars they're available as collars, also as diffusers. And here's Buddha here on the right wearing his anxiety wrap that was developed by Susan Sharp and Kimberly Ring. And the way it works is that dogs and humans have sensory receptors throughout their bodies. And the purpose of these receptors is to send signals to the brain about the environment. So the brain responds to those touch signals by sending a message back to the body on how to respond to those touch signals. So there's a constant system of feedback from the brain to the body and the body and to the brain. And the idea of the anxiety wrap is to create a continuous pressure or maintain pressure. And that anxiety wrap helps to calm the sensory receptors and slow down their hypersensitive responses and normalize that touch response. And this, I have to say, did work very well for my dog Buddha. There are also some products that are available over the counter commercially. Chill Out, which is largely, I think the primary ingredient in Chill Out is lavender, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about lavender later. And Rescue Remedy. And we've also found out that music has shown to relax dogs or reduce anxiety. There's a CD out called Through a Dog's Ears by Josh Leeds, which is a compilation of music that is appealing and soothing to animals. And studies have shown that playing relaxing music decreases anxiety in shelter animals. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that when I'm discussing stimulating other senses. Veterinary Science has a product out called Composure Pro that helps create a relaxing response for dogs without causing that drowsiness or impaired motor skills. And two of the ingredients that are in this are colostrum and tryptophan, which I believe is in turkey as well. So we use this in our practice as well for patients who have anxiety about going to the vet. We also use this Composure Pro sometimes post-surgery for animals that are having anxiety post-surgery. There are, of course, there are other adjuncts to traditional medical therapy. Acupuncture, which is a branch of traditional Chinese medicine, is a safe and effective way to help our dogs with anxiety. Reiki, which is a Japanese healing technique, and the Reiki practitioner uses a laying on of hands technique, which is safe and something that owners can learn to do at home. And Tellington Touch, which was developed by Linda Tellington Jones, which is a system that incorporates circular motions over the body along with specific lifts. And this specialized system allows dogs to release tension. It increases body awareness and it reduces the fear response. So I would highly recommend reading Linda Tellington Jones's book, Getting in Touch with Your Dog. Exercise. Exercise is a great tool for fighting anxiety. Physical exercise is great for helping to ease stress. Rehabilitation. Rehabilitation has helpful modalities that include things like underwater treadmill and swimming that will allow your dog to exercise in a positive and controlled environment. And of course, there are prescription medications available for anxiety. Only your veterinarian can prescribe this medication. Sometimes what we need to do with anxiety, because it can be complex, is to use behavior modification techniques in combination with anxiety reducing medications. But that's certainly a conversation that you should be had with your veterinarian. Please never give your dog your own medications. And sometimes what we need to do is refer or ask to be referred to veterinary behaviorist if we're having trouble controlling our dog's anxieties.